This is a podcast, and I'm Patrick McKeown, and this is basically looking at breathing for high performance. And I suppose the best way to get an insight into what we're going to talk about, I'm going to pass you over to Yasin. And Yasin is based in Germany, and he's got a really wonderful and in-depth background. And if you think that somebody can fit a lot of things into their life, he has done just that. Any of you involved with martial arts, sports, meditation, I think you're going to get a lot out of this. So Yasin, it's very good to talk to you. I know we've spoken a few times in the past, and I've included you in my new book and one of the breathing exercises, which I might actually go through as well later on. So you're very welcome. And just for the listeners, a little bit of background so that people kind of get an insight into you.
Okay, first of all, thank you and good to see you again. So to talk a little bit about my past, about the experiences, now I'm 45 years of age, young or old, it depends on the eyes, how you see it. And so I'm 35 years in martial arts, very intense practice, and 30 years in meditations. So, and I was training all the last 30 years almost every day and very intensely, even nowadays. So, and then later on, I was participating in competitions. First, it was like stylistic martial arts competitions, later on in the mixed martial arts, because even it's a new sport still. And I became in 2007 German champion in an 8-man tournament. Very hard rules, almost no rules, and no time limit. There was until one is knocked out, and you had to fight 3 times a night. So, and I didn't have any trainer at this time. I participated in that 8-man tournament, and the organizer even told me to not participate because it's very dangerous, and because I didn't have experience in my background of competitions. But they didn't know I was training all my life, not outwardly, like the people didn't know me, but it's a lot of things to do with the breathing later on. I will talk about it, and the mental training. And I became German champion, and even with the fastest knockout, it's a world record in a title fight. So it was 3 seconds against the former champion. It was just 1 punch knockout. So I was very focused.
Can you give me a little bit more information about it? So you signed up. What was the name of the tournament?
The tournament was Free Fight Championships. It's a free fight association. Back then, they called it Free Fight, and then they called it Mixed Martial Arts.
So it was the precursor to mixed martial arts. And yeah, you fight in a cage.
Fight in a ring. It's like in the Pride. Yeah, in Japan, it was very famous, the Pride. And Pride rules were really hard. So they could kick like a soccer kick to the face, and many things on the ground, which you cannot do in the UFC now. But we had even harder rules, less rules. And we didn't have time. We had a 5-minute round, and after then open end. So, and we had 3 fights a night. So it's an 8-man tournament. It was really one of the hardest tournaments ever in the story. It's like the old Vale-Tudo.
So the first round was 5 minutes, and after you do a 5-minute round, is there a break?
Yeah, after the first round, 5 minutes, you have 1 minute break, and then you go open end.
What do you mean by that?
Open end, it means the fight will be stopped when one of the 2 fighters are stopping. So like maybe you get submitted or you get knocked out. There's only that way. That's it. So wow. It was very hard. Some fights was 35 minutes, 45 minutes, like very hard. And then you had another fight, and again, like I think it's very similar to the first UFC fights, like the UFC 1 and 2 and 3, like that. But we had a little bit less rules even. We could, for example, grab 2 fingers and break them. It was allowed. It was really, really hard. But like I said, I didn't have experience, nothing. I wanted to test myself. I didn't want a career with it fighting, but because I'm doing martial arts all my life, at the same time I was meditating, and I wanted to test my stress level in reality. I wanted to test my fear, and not just in the normal day. Even I wanted to test it in the stress. So really, when I had fear, how can I control my emotion? How can I control my thoughts? How can I control my movements? And that was my really my Zen test, my samurai test.
So
And
you
I
were
went there.
looking, sorry, Dyer, I'm cutting across you there. You were looking to bring an absolute stillness of the mind, whereby fear, there's no place for fear. And I suppose if you're going into a fight, if there is fear there, if the stress levels are high enough, it's not going to help. It's going to have the opposite effect. So how did you achieve it? How did you do it? Can you give me a little bit of an insight into it? Because I think this information can be applicable to any walk of life.
Yeah. So the thing is, fear will come. Everyone has you have this trouble inside you always. The thing is now how you can direct the fear. So fear will come because fear is natural. It's an adrenaline because you're getting ready to fight. And sometimes you are a little bit troubled by thoughts, so what will happen or not. But it was always the most difficult moments was a day before and like 4 or 5 hours before the fight, because I didn't have experience. And the other thing is I didn't have a team. I didn't have a trainer, like a trainer who can calm your mind, which you are trained all the time together, and you have a little bit more security like with that. But so I was alone there with 2 friends, and the friends were full of fear also. So the thing is, but I was reading many books about the samurai times, and the samurai became really good samurai warriors when they when they came across the Zen, and the Zen monks or Zen masters, when they was teaching the samurais, like Miyamoto Musashi is one of the famous samurai in Japan. And they taught always how you can be cold with your emotions when you're fighting for life or death. Like, and I had to fight in a ring, so it was not to compare it like in a samurai time. You will lose your head if you do just one mistake. But I went very deep inside. I was asking myself, what will I do if I really have to fight for my life, for example, like that? And I kept going on with in years always, because I was reading it, I was meditating, and I was always asking myself, in this situation, what would I do and how can I do it? So, and that was even the test. I went there, challenged myself against really good professional fighters, and there was a 5 years unbeaten German champion, and I was even fighting him then in the finals. So the exercises, it's always the connection with the breathing, always, because the breath is the connection to the emotion. If you are fearful and you have a shock, you make, you get out. If you are sad and you are crying, you make, if you are aggressive, you make, look at him, and you are breathing long. So I knew the emotions are connected to the breath, and the thoughts are connected to the emotions. So you can think something, you can change your emotion, and maybe your breath will change naturally. But it's a very difficult point to do, like the positive thinkings. So if you think positive, but a negative thought is come, it neutralizes the positive thinking, because the negative thought is mostly filled with emotion. So the negative thought mostly will win in that case. But if you change now the routine, change the way you concentrate on your breathing, your emotion gets naturally calm, and then your thoughts become clear, and then you can think positive. Then you can put the seams much more easy to think positive and let it grow. And I have here a book, even I have it here. My most intense preparation were not physically, because I was running a little bit. I didn't have sparring. I didn't have any sparring. Incredible. And no pet work, nothing. But I was writing in a book every day some affirmations after my meditation. And I was writing it like I was writing in the future. I will fight. I will come out with no scratches, and I will have the belt. And I am the German champion in that in that day, and I was always making a smiley at the end. And then thank you to the spirit, thank you God, thank you everything. And I was confirming it every day, 1 month.
So
After
you're
when I won, it's very, I have the book here even, always, sometimes I'm showing.
Show us it.
No, it's here when I was writing here. It's 2007, maybe you can see it.
Yeah, I can see it. So that was your
2000.
diary, yeah.
Yeah,
I read.
And yeah, it's a diary. It's a diary, and the fight was in 20 May, and I started here to write in here on 26 April. It's April still. I was writing in Germany, like, so
cool.
I am affirmation. And now here on the 20, here you can see it.
Yeah, we can see that there's text there. Yeah.
Yeah, here it's 19. I'm here in the hotel in Dresden, in Germany, in old Germany. And then I was writing for the 20 in the future. I am German champion in free fight till 85 kilos. The belt is with me. I will fight. I fought and I won every fight. And here the smiley, thank you for everything.
That's so cool. So you put it out to the universe. And I really like what you say about positive thinking, because it's a term that's bandied just about too much. And I think it's the greatest load of nonsense. Because when the mind is in emotional turmoil, the last thing you can do is think positively. We need to change the physiology of the body and mind. And if we can change physiology of the body and mind, then we can change the psychology of negative and positive thinking. So the meditation that you're doing, you obviously brought it into your way of life. This is not something that you just do in the weeks coming up to a fight, because it's not going to be sufficient. Sometimes people forget that in order to tap into that part of the mind, we need to have a long practice of being able to focus from the mind onto the breath or into the body, so that we can tap into it when we need it. And then we can enter whatever it's called, flow state, or in the zone, or present moment awareness, when everything happens effortlessly and it's almost that time is slowing down. Can you talk just a little bit about that? So your practice of what you would do, if you're going for a walk, do you make it a practice of bringing your attention on your breathing? If you're training, are you stuck in your head? Were you, as a child or a teenager, drawn to meditation because of having an anxious mind? What drew you there? So just a little bit about that, and maybe just practical tools, because I think, Yasin, a lot of people are intrigued with meditation, and I don't know if the word is ideal, but really it's about taking our attention, in very simple terms, out of the mind into the present moment, and the breath is a great way to access that. So just your journey, and then what would you do then going into a ring? Would you deliberately make a concerted effort of taking your attention out of the mind, or what would you do?
So going a little bit back, so when I was training in martial arts, firstly, like a normal fighter, it's a little bit gross. I was very young, and I was not subtle in my energy. So, and then even with the training, and if you have the power and you get the power as a child, you get a little bit arrogant even, because you're stronger than others. And my old trainer, he had a book, and it was The Way of the Peaceful Warrior from Dan Millman. And he gave it to me when I was in the age of 14. I was very young. But 14, the people from children to teenager, they're changing, and you become a little bit more ego. You want to show you're off. And I was a little bit in that kind of state. And then I was reading the book in the age of 14, and I read it in 2 days. I never read a book in the school. I was reading that book in 2 days, and again, I read the book 13 times. And in that book, it's a lot of things about there is no ordinary moment. It's all the Zen in the practical, in the daily life. And then I started to bring all the books from Zen, from the samurai time, from here and there, from martial arts, from the Qigong, from the Chinese, from the meditation, the word, I will come to it later, and all the things, and then the breathing techniques, different techniques, what you can do. So I started to get a lot of knowledge from different books, and at the same time I was practicing that. And the muscle, like we have the physical muscle, you know, when you're training it, so you can see the differences. You can see maybe you can do more today, 10 push-ups. In 2 weeks, we can do 15, 20, 25. So the people have always a comparison there. So you have the motivation. That's why people going training their muscles easily. They are more motivated. Training the mind is difficult because you cannot compare it. It's invisible. You cannot see if you are stronger in the mind or not. And I noticed it very early in the morning because very early in this childhood, because sometimes I did a plan to train, and then even I stopped it a little bit, and then again, and then I stopped it a little bit because you couldn't see if you're doing progress or not. And then I noticed the invisible energy is really more, it's very deep and you cannot compare it. So you have to train it. It's like a spiritual weightlifting. And it's the mind, like you said before in your question, how you can go in deep in your, in the, for example, in a situation where it's needed. It's the training. So we have to train it like a runner. It's always running and more. So you're getting used to it. And the spiritual weightlifting, what we can call it like that, it's the same thing. So I trained a lot of different things. And later on, when I became a little bit more adult, like before the competitions, I felt kind of these emotions, the fear, or something like that. And I could prepare myself to it always. So it needs time. You cannot just buy it like in a supermarket and you say, hey, be calm, breathe deep, and everything is going okay. So you need training for it. It's like the training for the body, it's training for the mind, it's the same thing. And yeah, and the word meditation, it's like today the people are using, I will give you a meditation. Meditation, there is no meaning in this word like we're using it. Today they have all the coaches with the positive thinking, they do meditations. But meditation comes from Sanskrit, from dhyan. Dhyan, it's a Sanskrit term. It means almost, you cannot translate it, but it's a state where you get in. It's like when you, for example, I'm going now to drive to Dublin. I'm saying, oh, I'm in Dublin now. I cannot say I will do Dublin. So meditation, it's where you just come there and that's it. And it's a state of total stillness. There is no thought, there is nothing. And meditation, it's in the yoga, in the old yoga steps, it's almost the last step. First you have different things, then you have posture, then you have breathing techniques, then you have drawing the senses, then you have concentration, and then you become or you fall into the meditation. So dhyan became Chan in China, and from China it went to Japan and became Zen. So Zen, Chan, and dhyan, it means, if you can translate it like that, it's a place of total stillness. You cannot do that. You get into it or not, that's it. You cannot, if you do, I will do meditations, it's different thing. It's like you're giving some work to the mind like that, but it's not real meditation. So that's why today the people here in Western or US and Europe, they're using meditation like this word, but it's not the real meaning of it. So the real meditation, it's when you're in the zone. That's meditation. And there is no thought. There is a total connection between you and a universal energy. That's it. So you're not even, you don't have the I. It's like, I'm thinking now. Mm-hmm. You just flow like the water. That's it, yeah.
It's a wonderful place to be able to tap into. I've personal experiences of attending courses back 20 years ago. And I remember being in a hotel room in Dublin, the Shelbourne, and two people who were giving the course were immersed in stillness and immersed in the present moment awareness. And me, just by listening there with another group of people, I was one of maybe 30 or 40 people, When I walked out of that hotel room and I walked down a street in Dublin called Grafton Street, it was the first time that I actually seen the street. And it's something that we can't describe, but I think most people will realize that a racing mind is very common. And a lot of people would love to have the resolve to be able to quieten a racing mind. And this is where patience and mastery and not setting a goal to achieve a racing mind, but the goal, as you say, is to bring your attention from the mind, maybe onto the breath or present moment awareness, and to hold it there, to train the brain to be quieter. And a stillness does come into the mind, and then we can tap into it when we do need it. And I will say, and I've said it a few times, if I was given the choice between a master's degree, which one has to work hard for, and the ability to quieten the mind, I would choose in the ability to quieten the mind, without a doubt. I think it's the best tool that we can bring into our life, and being more creative and intuitive, and life is softer, and just things go easier. And also you attract things into your life as well. So I know people talk about the secret, and Yasin, sometimes, you know, I've seen people in meditation, and I'm looking at them and they have all the beads and the robes and this perfect posture, and they do their meditation for 30 minutes, and the rest of the day they're a total nut job, because they see that their meditation is something more for an image, or something that this is what I'm doing. And because the Western thing is all about outwardly showing, and the warrior of today in the Western world is all about the big mouth. Not all. I interviewed a guy yesterday, a professional boxer, Chris Billum, and a total gentleman. And I think it's wonderful that warriors had both that. They had the fight, but they had the quietness of the mind, because it seems to be the two extremes of you know, absolute stillness and quietness and patience and calmness and focus and concentration, but yet had the mastery to fight to an extreme level. How does that marrying of that, and do you think that the modern warrior has lost its way, lost his way, lost her way? Do you think that some warriors, and when I use warriors, I'm talking about people in MMA or people in boxing or people, you know, has Western society taken over that everything has to be loud, and the biggest mouth in the room is the one that gets the most attention and makes the most money? And that's a self, you know, fulfilling prophecy. And maybe the guy who is more inwardly, were you an introvert? Are you an introvert? Do you see yourself as an extrovert? A little bit like that, because it's the extrovert that gets all the claps. It's the extrovert that gets the promotions. It's the extrovert that's the risk taker. But what about the introvert?
So in the ancient times, it was everything about that. So it was always about the reality. The reality, it's the inward. It's the inward life. It's the inner life. It's the inner mastery about everything. Even if you see now some martial art movies, the old ones, you can see a master is always calm. It never attacks. It always in a state of in a state like the master is, and he knew how to injure people or how to kill people, but he knew in the same time how to cure people. In the old films, you can see sometimes he's injured. He knew everything. So it was a mastery about the life. It was an art of life. So the fighting, first of all, the Budoka, the term Bu, not Bushido, Budoka. Budo is now today, you can say martial arts. But the Budoka, it's the martial artist nowadays, in Japan even they lost it a lot. And the kanji meaning of Budoka, Bu, it means stopping the inner fight or stopping the inner sword. So it's the inner fight, it's your emotions, it's your aggressiveness, it's your ego. So you have to stop it first. Then you are on Do. Do, it's the way, or like Tao. It's the same thing. And Do, it means the way to the light or the way to freedom. It's the way of everyone want to be free or want to be enlightened. And ka, it means familiar. It not meaning that you are familiar with your family and daughters and children like that. It's familiar with everything, with the universe. You become one, like the term yoga. It means union. And ka means becoming familiar. So Budoka was stopping the inner fight, the inner emotions, the aggressiveness, everything what can hinder you, what can stop you. Then you are on the way to the path or the way to light, and then you become familiar with everything, with the people outside, with animals, with the birds, with the trees, with the breath, with the air, with everything, with the universe. You become one of it because universally, we are a part of everything. We're in the same energy. And it was a very deep meaning, and it's lost. And nowadays, in a competition, it's 99.99%, it's showing about the ego. When they're winning, they're jumping off the cage. I am the best. When they lose, they cry in the corner. It's not the warrior. A warrior was never like that. A warrior was always with respect, even in the moment he will die. So when they won, it was always, you are like that, all the time, respect. And that's it. Because in the, if you see the bigger picture, like we are here in this world, we are nothing. We are here visitors on Earth, and that's it. The Earth is spinning with 107 or 108,000 kilometers per hour around the sun. It's incredible. And we are here like visiting the Earth, and you making your ego big. And that's not the way.
Yes, yeah.
And this art of life is lost because the sport is like just external, just showing off, and that's it.
Do you work with young children? Do you work with teenagers? Do you coach, you're coaching martial arts. What do you say when you're working with youngsters? I'm just trying to think here of the technology and how it's going to screw, unfortunately, mess a lot of people's heads up. And I I absolutely think it's dreadful with the big technology platforms and what they're doing in taking and capturing people's attention, and it's all about profit. But I would be very interested to see your take. I know if I was a 14 or 15-year-old and I had a coach like you, it must be an amazing experience. What do you do? What do you say to the kids? Do you motivate them? What way? What information could you impart? What would you see if you were to put yourself as a 15-year-old child? What would be the path?
So I have a son. He's living in Rome, in Italy. He's now 17. So I have very good contact with him, and because I used to live in Italy years ago, and he's in that age, like, or he was in that age. And what I could do is the best thing what you can do nowadays. It's not the words what you are talking about. It's how you live and being the example. So it's the most important thing, like a baby or a child. You can say whatever you want. Maybe you will not do it if you are in your real eye. If you don't do that, he will not do it as well because they are going by example. They are looking and they are copying the persons. So the best thing for children is first of all the parents. The parents has to be an example for the children. If the parents are, I don't know, a smoker and they say always not smoking to the children, very difficult. Because the subconscious mind, it's connected like the Wi-Fi. So it's like from deep to deep, or it's from heart to heart. It's not from the 1%, like it's from here, the little consciousness of what we have here. So the thinking, it's too weak to make it effective in the reality. So the most important thing is that you are an example for the people, and then you showing the people how you live. And when you have this contact with the people, they get inspired naturally. So my son, even now, he's training a lot, really a lot. He's in the nature. He's doing a lot of things. He became Italian Taekwondo champion by his own, even almost like me. And he was reading the same book. I was recommended to him, even in Italian. I was sending him the book and he was reading the things. So it's the example. And that's the most important thing because what you do matters, not what you say.
Yes, yes.
And that's the very important thing. Like to change people even now in the systems in the school. I'm working now with the schools here. I'm working in clinics here with very hard problems, sometimes aggressions, someone is very fearful, and I'm doing a lot of things now. I'm teaching less martial arts now. I'm teaching more the people to help them to be able and to get through, for example, now in the pandemic times, to have to control the fear, to control or to be motivated even in that difficult time. At the same time, I'm teaching Olympic sport people, world champions, and so I have very different areas. And to come back to the breathing, it's one of the most overseen tools, and because people don't know what really the breath can do. First, one thing I discovered, and the breath is universal also. Maybe you know about the numbers. We have numbers in the universe, like the Nikola Tesla said, the 9 is the highest number, the universal number. That's why the 108, the number 108 is very like sacred in the Hindu, in all the, almost in every religion, because the 108, it's 9. The diameter of the sun is 108 times the diameter of the earth. And the sun to the earth, the distance is 108 times the diameter of the sun. And the distance from the moon to the earth is 108 times the diameter of the moon. So it's not a coincidence. So the 108, it's in the end of it's 9. And a day, it's 1,440 minutes. Independently, how much breath you do, at the end, it's always a 9. It's incredible. If you take a calculator and you do 1,440 minutes, and you're doing per minute, for example, 6 breath or 10 or 11, 12, 13, and you calculate it, at the end it's a number, for example, 20 point, and you calculate it together, at the end it's a 9, independent what you do. So the breath, it's universal. Is a deep connection. You have to try it later in the calculator. You will be very shocked first. You can look and you see really it's very, very nice. And now when I'm working in the clinics with all these problems with the people who came from prisons, from the aggression, the aggressive people, the fearful people, I'm always using easy breathing techniques first, always. And if I see there is a lot of a big problem, I'm using a little bit grosser techniques like breathing more hardly to exhaust a little first, to make them tired. So there's a lot of things, but you can do like in the dynamic meditation from Osho. He let them jump for 10 minutes and breathe like like that. They exhaust first, and then he come to the subtler techniques. So, and with the breathing, you can do a lot of things. You can make, I don't know, even for the health. I have a situation now, it came here in Germany, it became very famous. It was a reach for 30 million people. I have the 3 times world champion in wrestling, and he's even an Olympian. Frank Stabler is a well-known wrestler, and he had corona, a virus, 3 months ago, and he was on a test, a treadmill test, and he ran. The test is always 10 kilometers per hour, 3 minutes, 12 kilometers per hour, then 14, then 16, and he broke up after 1 minute, and he couldn't breathe because his chest was burning and lungs and everything, and he had the virus, and the doctors told him he had to use some heart medications and the asthma spray, and he need unless 3 months with medications to come back to 80 or 90%. And then he called me because I know him, and then we did every day 1.5 hours breathing techniques, 45 minutes in the morning, 20 in the noon, and then again 20 or like that in the evening, every day for 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, we went to the Olympic headquarters where all the professionals are, and the doctors and the scientists, everyone is there. And we did the test again. And he was 5 times better and more intense. He ran the 16 kilometers, 3 minutes, he ran through, and he ran even 18 kilometers for 2 minutes. And they were shocked because we didn't use medications, we used just breathing techniques. So in terms of health, in terms of controlling the emotions, in terms of getting in the deep state of nothing or no mind, in terms of controlling the sadness, the aggressiveness, or you're controlling the fear, everywhere is the breath, the link, everywhere. And the best link, the most important link. We born with the first breath, and we leave this life with the last breath. For example, when I say the breath is universal, later on when you calculate it, you can even apply it to other things, like the steps, what you're doing. At the end will comes always a 9, but you can stay, for example, 1 week lying at home, so it's 0 at the end. Or you can stay fasting, so you don't eat, so it becomes 0 at the end. But you cannot stay without the breath. You can stay even without water for 2 days, but without the breath, no one can stay, and it's the most important thing. And even then, when you go like with the science, there is a lot of things for the immune system, for the health, for the parasympathetic, sympathetic, and you can influence that. You can make many things with it. And even we are at the beginning, so I'm even discovering after 30 years many new things. But the basic thing is first to know that the breath can do a lot of things. Even all the world records, what Wim Hof did, it's the breath at the end. It's in the eyes, if you stay in the eyes, or even the Tibetan monks, they're staying at 5,000 feet. It's minus 20 degrees. They're getting the sheets wet, putting in the body, and then they make the tumo breathing, the inner fire, and they dry it. They dry it there. You know this?
Yes.
I will send you a link there if you saw it. It's very interesting.
I have the footage of it. Yasin, can we talk about a couple of different breathing techniques? So say, for example, you were saying that some people who are aggressive, they need to be give breathing exercises to down-regulate. What exercises would you encourage that person once they're, of course, they're open to it? And maybe somebody else, you say that you have to exhaust them first. What exercises would you use to exhaust them? I'm intrigued to know what exercise you use for the COVID, because I think a lot of people are anxious about COVID at the moment, and how, you have that famous wrestler. So I'd love to talk a little bit about breathing, and even for people just to have a practical take home, so they can apply it then in their own lives.
So first, if we going like in the basics, one technique what is very good for everyone at the beginning is, if you see the breath, it's a subtle life energy, and you have, for example, some negative thoughts or negative emotions like that, and it's in the breath. So first of all, one of the most important and effective techniques is breathing out everything, all the thing what you have in. So breath out the old energy. At the end, you cannot even talk, you have nothing. And you do it at like 2-3 times, like breathing out everything. And then you let it in naturally, and it's possible first in the belly, and then you go even in the chest after. You make it full. You bring in new energy and letting go old energy like that. And it's very effective because we have always this rest breath. It's like the rest food. And that's rest breath. It's always a kind of negative energy was memorizing in the body even. So you're breathing out everything, and then you breathe out new energy. That's a very good thing to, if you are, for example, in a state of when you're stressed, when you're always in the daily life and too much thoughts and nothing is in flow, and you're all the time thinking, what's again here, this problem, and there this problem, and then you're losing the patience. And it's a good technique to breathing out everything, even at the last milliliters you make it at the end, and you make this. you have everything, then you make.
So
like,
can I describe
like a
it?
bamboo method.
So you're taking a normal breath in through your nose, and you have a normal breath out to functional residual capacity, a normal exhalation. But then you keep on squeezing, pushing out that air, pushing out almost until everything is gone. Of course, you're going to have residual volume, but you're using it to squeeze all of the remaining air out of the lungs. And then you're allowing the inhalation to happen by itself, is it?
Yeah,
And
it happens by itself because you are, after you're there, it feels like a balloon from alone.
And I think one of the things that's happening there, which is really interesting, is that you're having a normal inhalation, a normal exhalation at F4C, and then you're breathing out. And this is allowing the diaphragm to unlock. And it's allowing the diaphragm to move back up to its back up to its resting position. Because a lot of people, I think with trauma, they don't have good movement of the diaphragm. So there's probably a number of different things going on with that exercise. And I think that's definitely, that's a great exercise.
For sure.
Do you have other exercises that you use?
So for example, for all the people, for getting the immune system more stabilized, it's almost the same technique what is in the old ancient times, when you are like the breath hold, when you're doing this nitric monoxide and everything, when you do it, it's your described exercise in the book. Even that I'm teaching a lot. And then there is another one, for example, to getting the lungs more stronger. So I'm going into the different rhythmic breathing, like very fast breath, and then you hold the breath, then you again, it's like you sprint, you're jogging, you're running normally, you sprint again. So it's like interrupting, and you're getting more adaptive to it.
Great.
So,
sorry to cut across you. Can we show people that? Because I spoke with you, I don't know, we had a telephone conversation about 2 months ago, and I was writing a book at the time called The Breathing Cure, and it was just finished typesetting yesterday, and I took that exercise, I stole it from you, and I've put it into the book. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share it on the screen. I'd like you to that we can go through it. So I don't know if you can see that. So I don't know what page this is on the book. It's a page 104. So it's exercise number 25, and it's called rapid fire breaths. That's just my own take on it, because I was trying to think of what sort of name would I put on it. And we're talking about Yasin here and your background. And of course, you never mentioned that you were a bodyguard for the King of Saudi Arabia. You've trained US Special Forces. So you've been involved with the Special Forces as well, which is always interesting in terms of breathing. So this exercise here, Yasin, is the one that disrupts homeostasis. And the word that we use here is to shake the autonomic nervous system. And it's changing the acidity of the blood by altering the concentration of blood carbon dioxide. So it's not suitable for pregnancy, if the female is pregnant, or it's only suitable if you're not pregnant and if you're in good health. So you typically start off, now I just kind of changed this at the start I felt for the beginner. So if you describe it, Yasin, you're kind of breathing in, fast breath in, fast breath out, which is going to activate the sympathetic response. So I'll pass it over to you.
So first of all, we have to make a difference between the beginners and advanced people. First of all, the beginners have to learn how to use the diaphragm, how you use the belly or the hara. And they have to train it. For example, they lay down on the ground and they put a small weight or a book on the stomach, on the belly, and they just hold it and leave it, like just the belly breathing. You breathe in, and then it's like a balloon, you let it go. You have to train first this connection. If you are more advanced, then you can go into these techniques, and it's like you are sprinting and you're running normally. So we're going till 3 breaths per second, even almost more sometimes. I did it with a wrestler too. We are doing it because we're preparing for the Olympics, and we're using some more tools. And it's very good exercise because after it, you will feel a strong sensation about calmness, stillness, and at the same time, the lungs getting more strong. So, for example, I can show it here. I will do 10 seconds very fast breathing here. For example, it's difficult for beginners. You make then breathe out. Yeah, you can hold it, and then you breathe very slow to the belly. And you can make the breath out after it, like even 30 seconds, 45 seconds, 1 minute. It depends individually. And then you go again. And you can do it easy, 3 breaths per second, what I'm doing now. It's more maybe. But for beginners, they can make like this. And then you can stop. Exhalation very long, slow, and you will sweat after. It's a very, and you can play with it because you have a lot of, it's a basic program.
Yeah.
But what happens here, it's like you're going, some people say the cold water is very effective. Some people say the warm water is very effective. What you are doing here, you're getting warm, cold, warm, cold, warm, cold. It's like the hydrotherapy. So you're getting both, and it's very, because it's activating more. And by your nature, you're getting more adaptive.
And there's more going on. You're exercising the breathing muscles. You're activating a stress response. You're also recovering. And in terms of the blood gases, when you do that hyperventilation, because the breaths are so short, I'm not sure if it's actually going to cause hyperventilation, because a lot of the air that's exchanged is air that would be in dead space. So it's a very interesting exercise, because I suppose, Yasin, a lot of people feel that when they hyperventilate, when they breathe fast, that they have to be having these full big breaths, which is going to blow off a lot of carbon dioxide. Their blood vessels are constricting. They're getting lightheaded. They're getting dizzy. They're upregulating. They're doing hard and fast breathing. They're stopping breathing, hard and fast breathing, stopping breathing. They're upregulating and stressing the body, but they're not thinking of recovery always. And as you said, that if you have one individual and they're a highly stressed CEO, and, I spoke with one guy, Niall Donnelly. I've included him in the book, so he's made it public in terms of, and he, I'm not sure what age he is. I'm assuming he's in his 40s, and he's based in California. He's from Ireland, and we kind of connected by email. And he was talking about using different breathing exercise. And the one that he found the best was in terms of the recovery. And he said, there are exercises that are going to suit some people, but not every exercise is going to suit everybody. And the one thing, that little exercise that you have there, the fast, rapid breathing to stress out the body, but then you have really slow, so you fast, rapid breathe for 1 minute, and then you have breathe light, really slow, gentle breathing for 1 minute, which recovers. So you get sympathetic, parasympathetic. Then you do fast, rapid breathing for 1 minute, and then really light breathing for 1 minute. So even if you're losing CO2 during the fast, rapid breathing, you're recovering it here. And that's shifting, that's getting a better balance in terms of, and no doubt it's going to stimulate the vagus nerve, because you've got a lot of diaphragmatic activity going on there. You've got the breathe light, which is going to increase carbon dioxide, which is going to stimulate the vagus nerve. So I think there's a lot going on. And for those people not, the vagus nerve is a nerve that wanders throughout the human body, and it innervates most of the major organs. And the communication from the vagus nerve is more from the body back to the brain. So 80 to 90% of the communication by the vagus nerve. So basically this nerve that's wandering throughout your body is feeding all of this information from the body back to the brain. So we can tap in and stimulate that vagus nerve. And, in 1993, there was a neuroscientist called Kevin Tracy, and I'm going to bring it back to you because I don't want to steal this because you were too interesting. But Kevin Tracy found that by electronically stimulating the vagus nerve, that it was able to alleviate harmful inflammation, including rheumatoid arthritis. And here's the power of the breath, because we can also stimulate the vagus nerve via the breath. And if you think of, arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, the medication is really, really strong side effects. It's really expensive. There's no real cure to it. And even if we were to alleviate these conditions, even by 10%, it's worth giving it a go. So yeah, so when you were talking about the breath, so I'm going to pass it back onto you. So for your own everyday life, do you bring it in? Do you tape your mouth at night, by the way? Do you breathe through your nose?
I'm taping.
You
That's
tape?
I learned it that from you, because I was like, I'm always independently how much things I did in my life. I'm always open-minded, and I'm maybe someday a master. Nowadays I'm a very advanced, but I will always be a student till the last day. That's always the wisdom of it. And the tape, because I'm nose breather. I'm breathing always from my nose, but during the sleep, you can never know it.
Yes.
And then I became aware about, like, if the mouth are more dry or not when I was waking up, after when I was reading The Oxygen Advantage. And even I read the other books, the Buteyko and what you wrote before. And I liked every one of them, very beneficial to everyone who never read it. It's very beneficial books, and I recommend it to many people. So, and then I started to tape it, and I noticed a difference even. Sometimes maybe even if you are not snoring like that, sometimes if we just open the mouth a little bit and we are breathing like lightly from the mouth, even there you change a lot of things, the recovery and
Yes.
the intensity and everything. And I noticed that. And the good thing now, I was teaching last week in the Olympics, the wrestler, the national team, Germany, they tapping out the mouth.
Are they? Wow, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Great
So
stuff.
the most, and every one of them, live, world champion, European champion, many of them now taping them out. So I was talking about it.
That's wonderful. And
And
you know, because these are big guys, aren't they? I'm assuming, they're going to be big guys. They're going to be prone to.
both, we have different weight classes there.
Okay, okay. So, because I'm thinking if you have a big male and he's got a large neck circumference, he can be more prone to the risk of obstructive sleep apnea. And breathing through the nose is going to help because you can adopt correct tongue resting posture. And even
Mm.
with balance, I suppose, as well, having the mouth closed and the lips together and the tongue resting the roof of the mouth, it can be important. So that's great, great news. So taping of the mouth, word is spreading, it's not going, I don't think it's going to be fringe for much longer. I actually think it's going to get into mainstream. And I remember doing it myself 20 years ago, and it was the first time that I genuinely started waking up feeling a decent night's sleep. It was amazing, And dental health, mouth breathers, you have your mouth open, you're waking up with a dry mouth, you're more prone to gum disease and dental cavities because, of course, you need saliva there as an antiplaque
Even the
agent.
smell of the mouth, even the
Yes.
smell of the
Yeah.
mouth change.
Yes. Yes.
Because, for example, people who are in a relation or something like that,
Yeah.
or now my student or my student wrestler, the Olympian, he's married, for example, or other people. When I say in the morning, when you check this, it's different. There is not the smell like when you're
Yes.
breathing from the mouth. It's very different.
Yes.
And that's by itself, it speaks a lot of things. If you have a not nice smell, or if it's differently, so it's like the babies never have a smell because babies
Yes.
always breathing from the mouth,
And the nose.
from the nose,
Yes.
never
Yes.
from the mouth. Yeah. So, and that's a really big difference, and
Yeah.
people can notice it if they do it. Like, and
Yeah.
even I myself, I was asking many times my girlfriend, like, if there is some smell or something like that. No, there is nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And many things. And I think, just, yeah, like you said, there's even many things what we even not discovered till now, and there is a lot of beneficial things.
Yes. I would like to bring full circle, and I'm just conscious of time as well because we've really this hour has gone very, very quickly. Um, what would you say to somebody who has the normal racing mind that's so common, and in terms of where would they start? And that book, I read that book, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. And I also read another book by Dan Millman, The Life You Were Born to Live. And it's pretty amazing as well. And I put in my numbers, and I think I'm at 32:10. I think so, because it's so many years ago. But the numbers, it actually was fitting. And I've read other people's profiles, and it didn't match up with mine. So
that's the book in German.
That's it in German. Okay, cool. Because my date of birth is the 16th of the 10th, 1973. So when you add them up, or is it 2810? I can't remember. Do you know what? It's 2810. I think I am.
Yeah.
But it's really amazing. And for somebody that's, say, 15 or 20 years of age, sometimes, you know, life is all in front of us. And you're really wondering, what direction are we going to go? And sometimes falling into something like this, it gives you a nice comfort. And it gives you some little direction. You found that direction as a 15-year-old. I came across this when I was 25. Many kids and youngsters don't come across it. Many adults come across it. It doesn't matter when we come across it. But what would you say? Where would we start? What could a person do?
So you mean for giving advices to this kind of,
in terms of bringing a quietness to the mind, changing breathing patterns, breathing through the nose, focusing on your breath. If the mind wanders off, practical advice.
That's the second most important step, because first of all, we have to getting the attention of them. That's the most important thing. And I think if the school, the normal schools, if they're not bringing these things in, they will not have the connection to these subtle energies, because it is invisible and they cannot compare it, they cannot grab it. There is no objective, because objective, you can always compare it. And there is in the breath, there's no objective. So if you are talking to the children, like you have to breathe from the nose, or you have to do that, and you do have to do that, and then you give him something, a PlayStation, something like that, he will run to this side. It's normal. So first of all, we need the inspiration. And I think if we have examples like the world champion or soccer players, imagine Ronaldo now talking about the breathing techniques really to everyone, and all the people who are looking out to him, they will do it. So I think we need now first an example, then even to bring it in the schools and to bring it to the parents, but even bringing to the mainstream, and then people will see and getting inspired by it. And then for sure the practice is everything. They have to practice it, but no inspiration, they will not do the practice. First, we have to inspire the people. For example, when I was training the world champion in the wrestling, if I just were talking to him theoretically, maybe he wouldn't do it. Because I had an unusual past with bodyguard of Saudi Arabia, German champion, knockout, and here and there, and special forces trainer. He was believing everything what I'm telling. People need always, like Wim Hof, he has a lot of records, people looking to him. If he was just theoretically saying the same thing, maybe he had just 10% of the people who was believing in it. So we have to bring some way in to inspire these people with good examples. And I think if it's politics or a musician or an actor or a sportsman or something like that, I think first of all, we need some of them to bring this effectiveness of the breathing, and then even through them or through the mainstream, we can bring it to the whole humanity. Otherwise, it won't work in that way, because it's like, it's difficult. We're trying to teach them. But if you're inspiring them, they come and they will ask you, hey, Patrick, please give me this and this and this, and I want to learn it. And then it's like in the old ancient times, the student comes and the master even first say, no, I will not teach you. And then he stays there for 1 week, sleeping there without food and showing off his willness. And then you say, okay, you are a good student, I will teach you. So today, now we're trying to bring it out, but we have to we have to make them like hungry for it. They have to see the effectiveness of that. And then for sure, the techniques are working, then no doubt. For every area of life, if it's immune system, for the health, for the mind, for the body, If you are calm, your relationship gets better. If you are calm, your business gets better. If you
Yes.
can handle stress, you can handle success. There is a wisdom. If you can't handle stress, you can't handle success.
Yeah, it's great. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things. So, the breath is the linking point and the bridge for mind and body, or for heaven and earth.
Yeah. Yes, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Yasin, lovely conversation. I really enjoyed it. It's always great to talk about breathing on a level, as you know, from a level that you're on. This is super. I think people will get a lot out of it. If people want to find out a little bit more about you, do you have a website? Do you have social media?
I have a social media, so Instagram, it's Yasin Seiwasser, and then I have a website, it's Seiwasser-artoflife.com.
And to spell Seiwasser, it's Seiwasser.
Right. It means in German, be water. The Taoism, like water,
So
flowing, adapting perfectly.
wonderful.